Hello and welcome to today's interview. I am so happy to have Jillian Beck-Rogers here with us today. She's a certified health and life coach, and I'm just so excited about what we will be talking about today. Welcome, Jillian.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited.
You know, Jillian's mission is to help busy professionals stop turning to food for comfort and start loving their bodies again. She loves to help people transform their relationship with food and exercise so they can have the energy and confidence they crave. And as those of you who've been following me for any length of time know, when we're looking at lifestyle and reversing diabetes, exercise and food are both big areas in which we can learn a lot, we can implement a lot, and powerfully change our health. So, just to get started, Jillian, I would love to hear from you. How did you get interested in the work that you do now? Like, were you born that way? Did you grow up with interest in it? Tell us more.
I would say I didn't necessarily grow up in it or was born to do it necessarily at first. At least didn't seem that way. I actually started off in fashion design. So I went to school for fashion. I worked in the fashion industry in New York City for about 8 years, and it was very, very stressful. I fell out of love with it pretty quickly, even though it's what I thought I wanted to do ever since I was 9. Had a little bit
Oh,
of a crisis trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do? And, one thing led to another. I just remember looking out the window on the subway from Astoria, going to the office in Times Square, looking out the window, thinking like, this can't be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I mean, this sounds terrible. Like I have to figure something else out.
mm,
And I started looking at all of the things that I really loved and cared about. For a long time, I've been very interested in, health and wellness. I've always been interested in healthy cooking. I would have
mhm,
like little dinner parties as a teenager, invite all my friends over, and we would cook a meal together. So like
fun.
I was that teenager who just loved to cook at home and make all my food from scratch. Kind of weird, I guess, at 16, but that was kind of my thing. I've always
Yeah.
enjoyed cooking, bringing people together through food, making, feeling better through food in a healthy way.
Mhm,
And the reason I say also, I didn't necessarily fall into coaching right off the bat. I was never very an athletic person as a kid. I did dance
mm,
and things like that. But I remember my friend got me to try cross country one time in high school. I tried that. It was a practice session in the middle of the summer, and it was supposed to be the easy one. And I thought I was about to die. I think I had heat stroke for the rest of the day. And I was just like, I'm not doing this to my friend. I was like, I'm not signing up for this. I'm not athletic enough for this. Screw
mm,
it. So
mm,
I was not the athletic person. I did not necessarily opt to go to the gym. That was just not who I was at first. And when I got to be a little bit older, I was introduced to rock climbing. And it was one of my
mm.
husband's coworkers, actually. And my husband always says he's like shocked that I am still rock climbing because it was so not something he thought that I would be interested in. But 7 years later, we still rock climb 3 times a week. I'm in love with
Mm,
it. And it really transformed how I do view exercise and movement. Even if
mm,
you are somebody who doesn't think of yourself as somebody who can be athletic or do something or push yourself in that way, you can really surprise yourself.
mm.
And, exercise, moving your body is so empowering. It makes you feel stronger. It's not just about, oh, we need to lose weight or I want to look
Yeah.
good in that, crop top, which is something I do hear from some of my clients. It's really more about empowering yourself to feel strong and that you
Mm,
can push yourself and surprise yourself with what you're capable of.
mhm,
So yeah, so to answer your question, all of those things I kind of looked at that I love and that are really important to me. And compared to my last career, I wanted to do something that I thought really helped people
mm.
and made a difference in the world. And
Love that.
fashion is very wasteful. So I like to say I wanted to do something that contributed more good into the world instead of just more shit.
Mm.
so, so all of those
Well,
things together is coaching. Yeah.
yes, yes. And I love that. And it's so interesting how you came into it. And part of it was because you enjoyed aspects of health and wellness, even though exercise wasn't on the top of your list. And I love that you love rock climbing. I do too.
I
I've
do
never
too.
done it professionally, but I I've
Oh,
always found
yeah.
it to be very fun when I have done it.
Yeah,
And it's a great way to move your body and really
hmm,
use your muscles in lots of different ways that you don't use when you're just walking on flat ground. And,
totally.
I would really like us to spend a little time looking at what if we're not rock climbers, we're not athletic or really sports people, maybe.
Hmm.
But what are some steps that we can take that can help us to be more consistent in our movement? Because when we're looking at blood sugar control, trying to either prevent or reverse diabetes,
Hmm.
consistency around movement is a really big part of it. So, how can we be successful with that?
Definitely. Yes, consistency and motivation are the two most difficult things that I hear of, which I'm sure you do too, right? How do I stay
Yes.
consistent and motivated? So yeah, I have like 5 steps that I kind of like to walk clients through and just to help people break down that barrier of I'm not athletic, I can't seem to get consistent with this. And these are some really practical tools that you can kind of tweak in order to maybe make it a little bit more fun and a little bit easier to
Mhm.
follow through on working out. So the first step is making space on the calendar and penciling it in. It's
Okay.
surprising how many people don't really do this. But if you think about, all of the appointments that you do have on your calendar, typically for a lot of us, it's work appointments or things that we feel accountable to somebody else to show up for.
Mhm.
And we stick to those things because it's blocked out space in our calendar. It's been made a priority. And a lot of us don't do this with our own workouts. We just assume that we will find the time and get to it when we get to it. But we all know what happens when we do that, right? We never get to it.
That's right. That's right. It's like right now I'm in the middle of something called a Live Hard program. And as part of that, I consistently commit to 2 45-minute workouts a day. And so I find with my schedule, if I don't start my day by looking at my appointments, and my
Mm-hmm.
schedule is very different from day to day because I do elder care for my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So as I look at my schedule for today, for example, I really have to look, where am I going to put this first 45-minute workout? Where am I going to put the second 45-minute workout? And one of those has to be outdoors. So it's like I have to think about, when does it get dark, and when do I, where am I going to be at what part of the day? And if I
Yeah.
don't do that, I mean, I can end up near the end of the day and go, oh, I'm still missing a workout. And for me, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work, because this is a program about consistency. And I'm doing like a 30-day right now, is a 30-day part of it. If I miss a day, I get to start counting my 30 days all over. So I like
Ooh.
not into doing that.
That's a motivator there, right?
Yes.
Don't want to have to start
Absolutely.
over.
That's
But
right.
yeah,
That's
you're
right.
right. And especially now where the days are already getting shorter, I'm like
Mhm.
noticing it's already getting dark at 7:30, which is very depressing. But yeah, it's like if we don't schedule it ahead of time, it's not just going to magically happen, right? Just with
Mm.
anything. If you really want something to happen, you have to make the time for it and pencil it in, as simply as that. So,
I love that. So making sure that we've thought about the intention, where are we going to do this in the day? All righty.
mhm.
So once we get it scheduled, then what?
So step 2 is to find an activity that is fun and enticing for you. And that might sound like very overly simple and silly, but I think a lot of us tend to go for, oh, well, this is like a trending thing. Peloton's really hot right now. I should do the Peloton. And in reality, maybe you hate biking. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of us just think of exercise as being this thing we have to do, we have to get it done. And it's not fun. And this is
Mm.
another reason why I do love rock climbing, because it is like doing exercise without really feeling like you're feeling
Hmm.
it, but without feeling like it's a workout. So what is something that you can do that makes you feel like a kid again, something that you enjoy doing as a kid? It doesn't have to be like you're strapped onto a treadmill or
Right.
doing something that everybody else is trying, just something that gets your heart rate up and moves your body. A lot of times I'll help my clients come up with a movement menu, and it literally is a list of, dozens of different things that you may not even think of as working out, but those do count. And just kind of getting creative with what that thing might be.
Hmm.
And
I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, and there's such a wide variety of activities that can come under this consistent movement category. What are some of the more unusual ones that you've helped your clients come up with?
Unusual. Well, I have one client that's like very adventurous. I don't know about unusual, but it's just things that I don't even think about sometimes. I mean, she
Sure.
lives in New York City, so swimming isn't quite as easy as maybe it is for somebody that has a pool in their backyard or,
Hmm.
but she got into swimming. I think she's done like badminton. She got into biking. She does different HIIT workouts. Oh, paddle boarding. So that was fun
Cool.
too.
Hmm.
Other ones that I know people enjoy are kickboxing, even something like getting a mini trampoline and just jumping
Mm.
on a trampoline for
Hmm.
20 minutes and moving your body that way.
Mm.
That even counts as exercise. I'm trying to
And
think
there's
of
a
what
lot of
else.
benefits to it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Sometimes for mine, it just means going down and doing some work in the garden because we live on a hill and just going
Hmm.
up and down the hill from the garden and up and down the rows. It's like you get some exercise doing that. And especially if you're
Yeah.
harvesting like this time of summer, and you're bringing in produce from the garden and stuff. It's like you got some weight lifting going on. You've got some
Hmm.
hit as you run up the hill. And it's like,
Yeah. I live in an
yeah.
apartment, so I don't have a garden, but
Uh,
I can imagine that that is a big workout because I hear from my friends who are big gardeners that it is quite intense. So yeah, that definitely does count as a workout. Another
Alrighty.
thing to think about is, making it enticing. So, I mean, I had a client one time who was trying to get into the Peloton, but it was down in her basement. And she was like, yeah, I just don't really want to do it because there's like cobwebs everywhere and it's kind of cold and it's dark. And, there was nowhere else to put it though. So
Yeah.
we're like, well, how can we make the space a little bit more enticing? You're more likely to follow through on something that, brings you joy or it's more enjoyable. And that's what you're going to follow through on. So, can you light some candles? Can we bring in some more mood lighting? Can you put on some music to pump you up and get you excited? What can you do about your space that makes it
Mhm.
somewhere that you actually want to be? Because at the end of the day, if you hate everything about the space and where you are, you're going to come up with a lot of excuses to not follow through on it.
I love that. It's a great idea. For me, one of the exercises that's easiest for me to do, doesn't require a lot of prep or equipment, is walking because I live in the country.
Hmm.
And so walking is great, but to me, to just walk is boring.
Yeah.
So I found that I love listening to podcasts and audiobooks.
Oh,
And I'm like
yes.
always working through a series on a podcast or an audiobook to learn something new. And and so if I get to listen to my audiobook or my podcast while I'm walking, it's like the time just flies. And I find
Hmm.
it makes it very, very enjoyable. So that's one of the things that I found that makes the actual doing of it more fun.
I totally need to get into audiobooks. I actually joined a book club because ever since I was a kid, I would try reading books and I mean, I was an A student in school, but when it came to
Mhm.
reading, I could never finish the last third because I would just fall asleep all the time and I just had to spark note the rest of it. Um, but I've like trying to get into reading as an adult. I do enjoy it.
Mhm.
Um, but I think audiobooks needs to be the way that I go because then I won't be falling asleep.
And it's a great way to use time that where you need to use your hands for other things, and
Exactly.
you can just be listening while you do it, especially if it's kind of mindless stuff like weeding or
Oh yeah.
dishwashing, folding clothes. There are a lot of things, vacuuming the house. I
Basically being an adult and all the adult tasks. They're all just
Yes.
mindless and boring, but we have to do them.
Yeah, so there's ways to make whatever it is that's accessible to you and that works for you fun. So
Mhm.
first one was making sure we set aside a block of time, a space in our lives to do the movement. Second one
Mhm.
is pick a movement and a way to do it that makes it fun and enticing.
Mhm.
Alrighty, so I think we're ready for step three.
Step three, yes, make it as easy as possible for yourself to follow through. So this is kind of similar, but looking at what roadblocks are in your way, having things set out. A lot of times, when we check with someone, so why didn't you follow through? And it's like, well, I didn't have my shoes out. Everything was a mess. Like I didn't know where something was. And so by the time I like got everything together, my 15, 20 minutes was up and I just skipped it.
Mm.
So looking at, well, what roadblocks are in your way? Something that I always start people with is like clearing the clutter. So is something as simple as going through your workout clothes drawer and organizing all of your shorts and your t-shirts and making sure you have clothes that you enjoy. ready to
Mm-hmm.
go, putting your shoes in a place that you're actually going to find them. If it means doing yoga first thing in the morning, maybe you leave that mat out at night before so that it's ready to go. Something that makes it really obvious and easy, and just removing some of those roadblocks.
Okay.
Another roadblock that I know for some people is, I hate saying it this way, but your kids, like, they're great, right? But when it comes to maybe doing a workout at home, having like your kids interrupting or wanting to crawl all over you might prevent people from
Mm-hmm.
wanting to actually follow through on a workout. So is there something you can do to help preoccupy them, or ask your spouse to maybe just keep them entertained for 20 minutes while you do this, yoga workout for yourself? What is getting in your way, physical or otherwise, that you could make it a little bit easier for yourself to follow through?
Okay. So I love that. Thinking about the obstacles, what gets in the way. And once we've done that, we
Mhm.
have two more steps left.
Yeah. So
Okay.
next step 4 is what's a way that you can reward yourself?
Mm,
So if you think about how we as humans respond, we want to keep doing the things we get rewarded for. They have that positive reinforcement, whether for you that is, something physical that you get or that you get to enjoy with words of affirmation. Like, you have different things that we respond to, right? That makes us want to keep doing the thing.
mhm,
I try and challenge people to maybe not think of a food. I mean, we all have our foods that we love as like our treat, and that is totally fine as long as it's not becoming this habit that's causing other issues, right?
mhm,
But thinking even of just rituals that are a reward for yourself. Do you ever stop to take a bubble bath and just kind of
mm.
have a half hour to yourself, maybe to read and just have a little bit of quiet before the chaos ensues for the rest of your day? Like, what could you give to yourself as a reward for following through? Um, and, make it more enticing to keep going.
Mhm,
Another thing that I thought was really fun and is kind of silly in a way is like a star chart. So I came
yeah.
up with this idea with one of my clients the other weeks. So her kids have like a chore chart, right? Where you
Mhm,
write down the different things that you're supposed to do each week, and you have like each day. And if you do the task that day, you get a star on it. And obviously, like, that really motivates a lot of kids to do their chores and learn hard work. And she started doing it for herself, for her own self-care tasks and
mm,
for her workouts. And she actually does it together with her kids. So they put together their chart and she puts together her chart, and they do it together as this like mommy daughter thing.
mhm.
And it's actually been very motivating for her. And we kind of laugh about it because it's like, geez, this is supposed to motivate toddlers and it's working for us. But, we all have that
Yeah.
kid inside of us that just wants to put a star on our chart and feel really good about it. And that's totally fine. Like, if that works for you, great.
And I think one of the side effects of doing something like that, where you have visual tracking, is that
Yes.
once you have like three or four things in a row, you don't want to break your streak, right?
Right.
So I see that principle being used in a lot of trackers that are tracking whatever it is. Like, I was doing some Arabic language training on Duolingo. Well, they always
Wow.
have, like, yeah, I like languages,
That's so
but they
cool.
always have like a streak thing. So like if you do it like
Uh-huh.
2 days in a row, then it's like on the third day, it's like they'll send you little reminders. Don't break your streak, and especially if
Yeah.
you've done it like for a week or 2 weeks. I have a friend that's been learning French, I think, with Duolingo, and she went
Mm-hmm.
like a year and a half without missing a day of practice. But
Yeah.
without that little psychological reward, and seeing, oh, I've been really consistent, this is really helpful, um it's easier to skip. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
here the idea is not to skip, even if, say, you usually do a half hour or 45-minute or a 1 hour time,
Mm-hmm.
and one day you have something come up and you can only do 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It's still better to do that than to
Totally.
skip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like, allow yourself to put the star on the chart, put the tally mark on the wall, or whatever it is that you're doing to track, if
Mm-hmm.
you just engaged in movement in an intentional way for, make it a minimum of maybe 10 minutes or something, so that even if that's not your normal, getting your minimum in counts. Because I think for when we're looking at consistency, that is more important.
Totally. Yeah. It's like that saying, done is better than perfect.
Yes, yes.
Just do 10 minutes, whatever you can do, just get that star on the chart, get that
Hmm.
consistency going. I think that's really, really important.
It's great. That's great. Anything else on that step that we should think about? The reward step number 4.
I mean, I think just thinking about like what do you find comforting? I notice with a lot of people, if comfort eating is your habit, if you love going to a certain snack all the time and that's what kind of calms you down, then what other things can bring you a similar feeling of comfort that
Hmm.
you don't get to enjoy very often? Is it like a hot shower or a bath? Is it making time to go see the sunset for 5 minutes? What little thing can
Hmm.
you give yourself that gives you that little feeling of comfort and feeling good, and that you can
Yeah.
maybe do more of that?
All right. I love that. Those are all great ideas. And to stay consistent, then we want to be marking it on our calendar, find an activity, some way to move our bodies that's fun, making it easy, like setting ourselves up for success in our environment and rewarding ourselves when we're done. And then what is the last one?
I think this is like a very all-encompassing one, and I'm sure you do a lot of work with this as well, but it's changing your mindset around
Mm,
movement and exercise. So this is obviously a big one that, we tackle in coaching. And I think starting with this reframe of I get to move my body instead of
mm,
I have to exercise, because how many of us have said that? It's like, oh, I have to go get my workout in. Oh, my coach told me I have to do my workout, or my trainer is expecting me. I have to go do my workout. And it feels like this, kind of a task that we have to
mm,
do. And something just as simple, and it's not going to come easily at first. You're going to feel that resistance because it's not a normal thought pattern that you have. But when you start to challenge yourself to say, no, I get to move my
mhm,
body, I get to do this. Um, I mean, sometimes I even think, oh God, I'm so sore. I don't want to go do this workout, whatever. But then I think, what if I wasn't able to move? What if I was,
mm,
handicapped in a way that I wasn't able to rock climb as easily and just go on a
mhm.
walk and enjoy, this beautiful scenery
Yeah,
of the place that I'm in, or be able to walk on the beach easily. I'm
right.
actually very grateful that I do get to do those things and I get to move my body. And if we start to shift that, mindset every time we get the other thought in, will retrain your brain to think a little bit more positively and feel like moving your body is this gift rather than this burden that we have to follow through on.
I really love that. And it is a very simple switch. But if you just think about how you feel when you use the word I have to
Mhm.
versus I get to, it's like, what kinds of things are you used to using the I have to phrase with, right? It's usually like, I have to take out the garbage. I have to, clean the bathroom. I have to do my dishes, but we use the I get to, like, I get to go to my best friend's party, I get to
Mhm.
visit Paris, I get to, right? So there's like the sense of anticipation, anticipation of something fun, pleasant, when we
Yeah.
use the phrase I get to. And I think that as we actually talk to ourselves differently, we can feel differently about exercise.
Totally.
And our emotions are such an important part of our motivation and our actual like behaviors that we choose to engage in. It all starts with what
Mhm.
we think about it and the feeling that comes based on our thoughts. So, I think that really looking at what am I saying to myself around this issue of moving, and
Mhm.
is it a positive thing, is it a motivational thing, or isn't it? And then how could I make that more fun? And I love that I get to, I that is part of my habitual vocabulary now, and it
Yeah.
makes such a difference to how you get to walk through life no matter what you're facing. So it's actually a tool that's good not just for exercise, but for
Mhm.
anything that actually supports your long-term goals, things like long-term health,
Mhm.
long-term relationships, long-term success, and anything that's really important to you, even if it's a harder task that maybe isn't your
Mhm.
favorite task, saying I get to do this and realizing it's because it moves me, in the direction of where I want to go with my life, it can make a huge, huge difference. And I think that's very key. And I thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think it's all part of that like delayed gratification, right? It's not something you may necessarily get results like right away, and it's not as enticing. But like you said, it's all of these things that's, working towards your success down the road. And we have to remember why we're doing those things. Another thing that I think we mentioned this earlier was ditching perfectionism. So how many times have I heard, well, I'm usually all or nothing, and I get so frustrated and then I just quit after I get started. And I think so many people go in thinking like, well, I have to do an hour-long workout, and if I can't do the full thing, then just forget about it. And then I've broken my streak, and then I'm frustrated and just like, screw it, this isn't meant to be. A little bit of an exaggeration, but that's honestly some people's take on it. And to what you were talking about earlier, if you have a crazy day and all you can do is 10 minutes, then all you can do is 10 minutes. Just do the 10 minutes and keep the consistency going, because you are a person who follows through. It's not about being the person who always works out for an hour, right? It's just the fact that you did it.
That's right. And how we define our identity is important here. And that's like a whole nother discussion. But yes, I do. I love this. So it's been really good to get these 5 steps to getting more consistent and motivated as we move. So I know that you have a special gift for our listeners today. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's my essential guide to a 15-minute stress-free morning routine. Because how many of us would love to have a stress-free morning routine? And I find that this is really important to help set people up for a more efficient day, to be more consistent and more motivated for your day, especially if we start off in a place that is very stress-free and we've done a few things for ourselves. So it breaks it down into a few simple steps, and you can also insert your workout time as well. But yeah, you can get that at jillianhealthandwellness.com/morning routine. And get that there for free.
Okay. And we'll make sure that the link is in the description below this video as well. So it'll be easy for you to click on. You don't have to memorize that, but that will take you to her website as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave them with before we end this interview?
I mean, if you just come over to Instagram and say hi, that's usually where I am hanging out, a little bit on LinkedIn these days, but mostly Instagram. And I'm at Jillian Beck-Rogers. So come follow me on Instagram, come say hi, that you found me on here, what you thought. And yeah, I'd love to get in touch.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jillian. Really appreciate you being here with us today. And remember that health is wealth, and it comes by choice, not by chance. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.